Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Wool Sea Knitting channel. My name is Rachel, I am your host, and this is a project vlog covering my attempts to self-draft a cardigan for the first time. I love knitting. I've been knitting for 3.5 years, but I almost always follow patterns when it comes to knitted garments. I have kind of self-drafted really basic tank tops before. I've done socks, I've done mittens, but nothing to the level of intricacy and nothing with the amount of techniques that I want to include in this cardigan before. So I thought it might be interesting to vlog the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of trying to figure out how to make this work. So I think it's best to start with my inspiration and the reference points that I'm using. And they are basically the movie illustrations of this character and his jacket, this particular cardigan, which is also inspired by that outfit, but is a little bit too far removed from it than what I want, and the fit of existing cardigans that I already have, one of which I made and that I like. And what really prompted this whole exercise was a couple years ago, some high fashion house called Loewe did a collaboration with the film house behind Howl's Moving Castle, Studio Ghibli, to create a collection. They had a cardigan that was inspired by Howl's coat. I really liked the pink and blue overall diamond V-neck shape of this. And I'm a big fan of the movie and the book. So, while I really appreciate the Loewe version, the cable textured stripes layered onto the colorwork pattern is really cool, but not something I'm interested in recreating, and I want solid color sleeves. I also think part of the charm of a hand-knit cardigan is that you can choose to use really high quality and unusual buttons, and I want a baggier shape. And the reason why I don't just recreate the original cartoon cardigan is that it is a little bit too dramatic of a garment for me to actually want to wear on a day-to-day basis. And that kind of got the gears turning in my head to think, oh, I could make something really similar actually, but there's a lot that I would want to change if I wanted to make that for myself and make something that was a hybrid of these two. Cozy, wearable cardigan, but a little bit more closely aligned with the fantastical elements of Howl's coat in the movie. So for my version of the cardigan, I'm picturing an oversized, boxy V-neck with a bit more of a jacket-like shape and about 42 to 45 inches in total circumference around the widest part. I want the back and the sleeves to just be solid blue and only have the diamonds down the front, which will make this an intarsia project, not a stranded colorwork project, and I wanted to have a double knit button band. I did do a preliminary sketch, and I'm being very vulnerable with all of you in showing how bad my drawing skills are, but here it is from my iPad. There are a few details from the original drawn version in the movie that I want to bring in. For example, his coat is rimmed in gold details, and I think that's really pretty and whimsical, and I wish I saw that more in garments. And I have some DK weight gold or kind of bronzy scrap yarn in stash, so I want to see that with the yarns that I chose and maybe do an applied I-cord along the edge of the double knit button band to bring that in, or if that's too much work or looks weird, maybe a double knit button band that has blue on the front and then gold or pink if the gold doesn't work, because I don't really look good in yellow, on the back, so it's more traditional double knit, and then have the edge show that contrast color. I also like the fact that there's this cuff detail that brings in the red from the diamonds again, because the coat also has the solid blue sleeves otherwise. That's a lie, they're pink, sorry. And I want to bring that into my version in some way. Related to that, I knit the Lana vest by Irene Lynn last year, and she includes this really gorgeous lateral braid detail at the bottom of the vest that I want to use along the cast-on edge of the back panel, because I really like it when there's some pretty detail along the top edge of a drop shoulder back panel. And for that sort of cuff detail, I was thinking maybe doing that horizontal braid again at the cuffs, but in the contrast. And I want it to be something that I feel comfortable wearing and that doesn't feel like cosplay, but that still is a little bit more like Howl's coat than the Loewe version. The yarn I'm going to be using is Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn in the colors Denim Blue or Denim Mix 6324 and I think this is old pink, and this color has been discontinued. Its official number is 4023, and so I bought this from a yarn store out of town, and I got 5 balls plus the original ball that I got in a different dye lot last year when I was coming up with this plan, and I wanted to swatch with it, and I really hope that that's enough. And I got 10 balls plus the one I have left over from swatching to use for the main body of the blue. I swatched and I have a really solid 20.5 stitches in 4 inches on 4mm needles in this yarn, and it creates a fabric that I really like. So from that information and aiming for this like 42 to 45 inches in total garment circumference, I created this chart in Stitch Fiddle. And if you haven't heard of Stitch Fiddle and you are interested at all in playing around with making your own chart, highly recommend Stitch Fiddle. With this chart, these general design details that I'm looking for and the baseline of the cardigans, the field day cardigan that I own and the thrifted cardigan that I have and wear a lot, I did some math, wrote down some numbers for myself, and I'm really excited to cast on. As you can see, my main goal was to mirror the shaping, and I think I mostly did. When you can see, I checked it out later. An unexpected benefit of starting off with this Irene Lynn horizontal braid at the top of the back panel is now that I have to pick up stitches to do the front panel of the shoulders, the twisted stitches of that braid create a really easy pickup channel and guide for picking up stitches, which I really appreciate. And I feel like it's leading to an overall cleaner look. Okay, so I think I'm happy with how I did the pickup in the main color and not just immediately picking up in the color work in the intarsia and setting it up there. But I am finding that no matter what I do, the first couple rows of the intarsia are so frustrating because all the stitches are loose and kind of gappy at the edge of each colorwork block because you have both the tail end from where I picked up, which is kind of creating that like gap, which is pretty normal, but then you usually, you know, it kind of goes away the more you knit. And then also I have the issue where the intarsia joins are loose until like I fix the tension on the next round. And because at this point the diamonds are at one of the widest points, and that means that all the tails are really close together, plus the tails from the pickup means that a couple times I've just knit with the tail of the yarn, especially for the blue right here, because it's just the one. Or I've crossed with the wrong tail to keep going and like secure the join. And I have been finding that kind of frustrating to start, but I have to have faith that it's gonna look okay and like stop being kind of wonky the more that I knit and maybe block out a little bit. We'll see. I don't want to always be like, it'll block out, but so that's how things are going right now. But I think having the solid line of blue is kind of my best bet in terms of how to make the shoulder look as clean and professional as possible. And I tried it while picking up in the colors to start the intarsia immediately, but then I didn't want it to be on the right side that the first thing is always happening. So this is what it is, and now I can just get to knitting and do the fun part. Hi, time for a quick check-in to track my progress because the sun is shining, and if I don't film now, we will have another many gray days before I will be able to again. I just wanted to let you know that I am more than halfway done the front panel of the right shoulder before attaching it to the back. I mean, really what I'll be doing is putting it on hold to then do the exact same thing on the left side. And I had a whole bunch of false starts because trying to figure out how to do the pickup at the shoulder so that it kind of looked nice coming from the horizontal braid. And then do I start on the right side or the wrong side of this diamond pattern that I'm doing with the intarsia? But I'm happy with what I decided to do, which is pick up in the blue and then go from there, because this is going to be sitting on a slope. Like, it's not going to show up like this on the shoulder. This braid will be at the back. So I'm happy with how it kind of, with what I ended up doing, because from where it will sit on my body, I think, if I did this right, the appearance from the front will be only the pink and blue triangles to shape the diamonds, but from the back, it'll look hopefully nice and neat with the blue on either side of the horizontal braid. So I'm happy with that. And this has been a very engaging pattern to do because I found it pretty easy to memorize. I had some false starts even though I came up with this chart myself, because it took me a second to realize, oh wait, I'm always going to be expanding the diamond on either side on a purl row, not a knit row. All the increases I've only been doing on the knit rows, and it took me a second to figure out which, all of this is stockinette, so it's rolling like crazy, but I think you guys will get the idea, especially when we get a little bit closer to finishings and things will be tacked down a little bit better. But it also took me a second to figure out which increase to do on the long end to shape the gradual v-neck, because I wanted it to be the very last or first, I guess, stitch, like on this end where the increase happened, because I didn't want it to be disruptive to the intarsia colorwork pattern. However, knit front back, you end up with like a little ridge in the purl row, which would be on the side that remains on the front after I would pick up for the button band, and I didn't like that. So what I'm doing instead is just kind of knitting into the same stitch twice at the front, but it's not knit front back, it's like knit front twice. So I'm sure there's a technical name for this stitch. I'm sure I've seen it before, but I just fiddled around with it until I got an increase that I thought would look better in the final object. It's just fun. I'm really happy with how this is ending up looking in like an actual woolly object as opposed to just the little chart that I made. As much as I love you, Stitch Fiddle, you are not, you know, a fabric. And I'm more than halfway. I think I have another 4 increase rows before I put these on hold and move over to this end. And can you tell that the middle diamond is a different dye lot? I think no. I hope no. Because if you can, we will just say it is part of the whole magical, wizard, dreamy, funky aesthetic, as opposed to I bought 3 different dye lots of wool. This feels like a good time to check in and say, manage your bobbins better than me. Manage the different strands of yarn that you have better than me. I have 4 more rows before I finish this front shoulder panel, and I also have errands I should be running today that I would like to do while it's still nice out. However, I can feel how close I am, and I don't want to stop doing this until I hit that natural stopping point and have the satisfaction of having completed an entire section. So I'm going to give myself 15 minutes. And then I'm probably not going to be done 4 rows, but if I am, fantastic. And if not, I had another 15 minutes and I'm going to go run my errands. But I've been finding this really fun, especially since the thing about drop shoulder constructions that I find all the time is it feels like you're making a lot of progress at a really fast rate, because like every discrete part of that project you hit and complete all these different milestones, and then you connect the front to the back and you're working in the round. And it's fun to work in the round, but at the same time, you have all those stitches that you were working separately at the same time, and it feels like all of a sudden you've gone from going at warp speed to working at a glacial pace, and I know that's what's coming next. So I will feel all the satisfaction of completing the front and joining everything, and it's gonna feel so good. And then we get to the real work of no more stitches on holes and every part together, and somehow juggling between 8 to 10, or no, 7 to 9 different balls of yarn attached to one project at all times. So I did it. I finished both front panels, and I did it in the 15 minutes I had before running my errands. Here they sort of are in all their unfinished glory. Everything is rolling like mad because this is all stockinette. I promise you have the half diamonds here and here, but it's sitting on my shoulders. I think I like the V and how much it comes out. This might be a bit closer to my neck than I thought I was doing in my calculations, which does go back to my earlier fear that I didn't give myself enough space in the neck. But I'm also hoping that as the sleeves are added and this is kind of tugged down, it will create a bit more space. I'm also wearing a full baggy sweatshirt underneath this, which is going to be affecting fit, but based on just appearance, I'm happy. And fingers crossed for fit, but this is a big moment for me. I did this out of my brain, and you can too. Stitch Fiddle is free to use. Okay. All right, I got stuff to do, but talk soon. I'm getting to a point where I need to start thinking about the overall length of the cardigan, and I thought this was a good time to show you on the cardigan that I'm using as a reference for how I want it to fit and drape and the length. This is a thrift cardigan that my friend gave me ages ago that I mentioned earlier. I'm sorry, it's a dark color and the lighting is just not good from this angle. Also, I swear I cleaned this mirror before I did this. However, it's just a really old mirror and some things are gonna come out. So as you can see, here's my hip, here's like my crotch, sorry, and that's about where this bottom hem sits, and that's about where I want this to sit too. However, I'm worried that it's going to look a little bit frumpier on my actual cardigan because this is a cotton acrylic blend that, as you can see, is much thinner and drapier than I think the pure gint is going to be. So now I'm starting to get a little nervous and thinking about forward planning. But this is the reference point. And then in contrast, here is my whip. It's currently sitting, as you can see, around my belly button, which is around where this button is. And I think to match the cardigan fit of the one I just showed you, of the store-bought one, and also be most in line with the original animated reference point, I want it to also sit around here. However, I then run into the issue of the diamonds and making sure that it ends in a part that's visually appealing. So I think what I'm going to do is knit it so that, as you can see, I'm very close to finishing off this diamond. I'm going to finish off this diamond and then continue the intarsia pattern until we hit the widest point of the next pink diamond and then start the body rib. Because approximating length, and again, this hasn't been blocked, so, you know, things might change, but approximating length, adding this much here Well, oh gosh, though, no, is that too long though? Because I also have to add ribbing, and if I want it to end up here, I mean, sleeves are going to suck it up a teeny bit, but not, I'm anticipating that much. So this is currently what's on my mind. Because I also have a cardigan that's my hand knit field day cardigan, which I was using as a reference point for the shaping of the shoulders, I think ends right about here on me. It's the only thing I don't love about it. That's about where I am and what I've been thinking through, but I'd rather try and be intentional now than carry on without thinking and then have to make snap decisions later. But so far, I am tentatively quite pleased with how it's turning out. We'll see. Good news, friends, I found buttons. I went to one of my favorite events, the Ottawa Valley Weavers and Spinners Guild Sale and Exhibition, which happens the first or second weekend of November every year in Ottawa. And one of the yarn stores that was displaying there was vending. Wool in Montebello had a supply of vintage buttons, and I got 2 different options for the cardigan. Both, I think, have very significant pros and would be very beautiful on the cardigan. I just wasn't able to decide right then and there which one to pick, so I bought both. These ones are much bigger and there's only 4 of them, but they're a little bit more classic and they're the exact shade of pink that I love and I think would be so beautiful on this. And these have more, as you can see there's 7 as opposed to 4, and they're a lot more eclectic, which also feels kind of in line with the spirit of the cardigan, and there's like a variety of them. And I think that that's cute. So this is kind of more the style that I wanted, but this is the size and amount that I wanted, so I got both. These are apparently cellulose, and these are a combination of glass and plastic, depending on which button. And whichever one I don't use, I think will find a loving home on another cardigan, but I think these are pretty perfect, and I'm pretty pumped. And once again, the Ottawa Valley Weavers and Spinners Guild Sale and Exhibition has come in clutch for me. You see, like, this would be nice. This would be nice. The thing is, if I went with these, I would have to make the button band a bit bigger than my original plan. But these are a bit wackadoodle. I think the flower one is my favorite, I must be honest. Regardless, I'm really happy to have at least secured options, and I'll make some decisions about the button band later, but I think these are a pretty perfect fit, and I'm very pleased to have found them, whichever one I end up going with. After early November, winter came hard and fast, and this project was put aside in favor of a whole flurry of gift knits. In January, I managed the last few rows of the body and to pick up and start knitting the first sleeve. Time for a little cardigan update. It's been a while since I've spoken to the screen in filming this vlog. I have done quite a bit of the sleeve, which feels wild to say because it's really not that long. It's just that with such an aggressively oversized drop shoulder, the body itself ends mid bicep, and so there's just not that much extra length that's needed. And I have realized 2 things. Number one, I'm absolutely not going to make it with the amount of yarn that I have already to keep the sleeves in blue. I really underestimated how much blue yarn I'd need and overestimated how much pink yarn I would need. And number 2, I need to make a decision about what kind of cuff detail I want on this sleeve. Right now, I'm torn between doing a pleat or a welt right in pink right before I do the cuff in pink, which I think would be both a nice nod to the cartoon original and a very cute stylistic detail, or doing a horizontal braid like I did at the shoulder in pink right at the cuff. And so I think I'm just going to do both and see which one I like more. Or maybe if I do one and I love it, then I'll just leave it that way. I am, I guess, about halfway through my second ball of yarn for this sleeve. And so I'm waiting to see how much I end up needing for the whole sleeve before I order more. I think that this color has also been discontinued since I started this project, or maybe it was already discontinued and I just didn't realize. And so I have fewer options of where I can order it from, but I think I found it online at Fia, which is a local yarn store out east, but I don't want to then drastically over order and end up with way too much. So I'm waiting to see how much blue yarn I use total for this sleeve before I order more to finish it. And I'm worried that waiting for that yarn to come in is going to slow down my progress, but I do think I have enough to at least start the button band, which is something I'm otherwise neglecting because I'm a little intimidated. And so I'm just going to work on the button band while I wait for the rest of the sleeve yarn to come in. It's just stockinette in the round with a subtle decrease in the sleeve. And so I think that my goal of finishing this cardigan before the end of the month is maybe feasible if I can just get the yarn that I need properly. Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, excuse the artificial lighting. I just got in from the office. I ended up going with the welt stitch around the cuff, and after some trial and error, I am happy with it. I did block this cuff detail overnight because it was a little bit lumpy bumpy, and that was making me nervous. I wasn't sure if it was going to turn out, and so now that I'm home, it's dry. I think it's a really nice tie-in to the pattern on the front without being too much, and I like that it allows me to use up just a little bit of more of the pink. Originally, when I first did this, I went straight into the ribbing after the welt, and that didn't look good, so I went back and did a couple rows of stockinette in between, and I think that really improved the overall look. Now I'm going to pick up stitches for the button band and do that because that is increasingly starting to scare me, and also I don't have enough yarn for the second sleeve, so I need to order that. Now time to pick up 1,000 stitches and then do 3,000 years of double knitting. Hello, I'm on the floor. It's been several days and I am on retry, I think 8 of the double knit button band because I just can't seem to get it right. I have found a video that I think will solve my current #1 remaining problem, but I thought this was a good time to show you my many errors in the button bands. This is what it looks like right now. As you can see, I did not get very far. I have stuck one of the buttons on there just to get a sense of the size if the button band is correct, but the major issue is this big gap between the stitches that connect the button band to the actual cardigan and the double knitting portion. You can see it's super gappy and messy, and this column of stitches does not look nice at all, and they don't blend even a little bit. And with any amount of tugging, you can see all those gaps and strands of yarn in between connecting them, and it looks bad. I also think it's just a stitch or two too big for the button size that I have. It doesn't if you use this gap as the dividing line, but looking at this, I think it might be a little too big. This is what the back looks like. It's pink, and the pink is of course on purpose. And I have been very committed to the double knit button band being 2 colors, the pink and the blue, for 3 reasons. #1, I really wanted this pink outer edge, which is something very easy to achieve, sort of, in double knitting, because it feels like another homage to the original cartoon that I really like. It's a really cute design feature that's not present in the store-bought version of the cardigan. #2, because I am running really low on the blue and I have so much of the pink left over, and this is just a way to practically use a lot of the pink. And #3, as opposed to a solid color double knit button band that you have on the Levitate wrap, for example, or the Champagne cardigan, I'm not slipping every other stitch and then knitting it on the other side. I am knitting on this side, the right side, I'm knitting the blue and purling the pink as opposed to slipping it. So this is working up faster, which I like. I mean, it's a pain to have the 2 yarns connected the whole time, but I'm trusting that I will get better with practice. However, I just can't seem to get the tension on the edges right. At the beginning, I was also experiencing a lot of flaring at the bottom. I used a standard tubular cast on, and I thought that was ugly. There's still a gap here at the bottom that I don't like, but I think I can sew it in a way that looks a little bit better. And also I know that people aren't going to be, you know, inspecting that area particularly. And I also had a similar gapping issue on this side that I have since remediated. But that's about where I stand on the button band. If this doesn't work, I think I'm going to throw in the towel, do a solid color blue button band, suck it up and buy more yarn and end up with a lot more of the pink left over, and then just crochet a slip stitch edging along it with the pink afterwards, which I think will get the same effect. It just won't help me use up some of the pink. I am almost on my lunch break, so I'm going to finish up by unraveling this and pick it back up at night. I think that I'm lucky that this is the most troubleshooting I've had to do thus far in this project, considering it's self-drafted and involves techniques that I haven't used before or have used very minimally, but this felt like a good check-in to show you that I am encountering some difficulty along the way. This is the button band. I am surprised it went as well as it did. Okay, that's besides the 4 days and 9 false starts to try and get it to be pink on the inside and blue on the outside. But for the most part, kind of just winging it. I got pretty lucky in matching the row gauge by going to a 3.5 millimeter needle when the rest of the body is knit on a 4.5. And it took me almost a week of almost exclusively working on the button band to finish it, but I'm really happy with it. The only thing that concerns me is it does a little bit want to curl inwards, and that makes me nervous that I didn't make it big enough, that if I had made it a wider button band, maybe it wouldn't want to do that. But honestly, I'm like almost emotional about what this looks like having come all together. I really like it. And I mean, I've self-drafted a ton of stuff before, but almost exclusively like accessories. It's just really, really satisfying to have it look like a cardigan and to be able to really visualize the finished product. Because, you know, I was going off of a couple different inspiration points, but I was making something that's mine. So it's not like I had a pattern to refer to or designer's sample to look at to see if I was on the right track. And this has really given me a lot of confidence and satisfaction, and I think honestly pride. I mean, let's see how the second sleeve goes. I had to order 2 more balls of yarn to finish it, and I have just picked up for that sleeve. One thing that is still a big question mark, like the one thing I'm so completely tangled in yarn, this is so silly, is whether or not to do this crochet button band detail. I was originally very set on this because I really liked it as something I don't see a lot in knitwear patterns, and it was in the, sorry, the camera really is struggling to focus, and it was in the original cartoon, and I did make the button band a bit thinner with the expectation of picking up and adding it. But now as I look at it, I wonder, first of all, it's not helping it not curl in at all, which is frustrating. But between these 2 options, I actually can't tell which is better. Does the pink maybe make it too busy? My mother suggested putting the pink edging only on one side, the side that doesn't have the buttons itself, but I really don't know what to do. that this came out very well considering my expectations for this project. I have finished it completely and I've already worn it twice. I'll share a few clips at the end of this video of me wearing it with a full view, but I have finished it. I have sewed on most of the buttons, more on that in a sec, and duplicate stitched over the one area where I messed up the color work chart and then knew from experience the previous times I had attempted to fix the color work chart, it would be easier to just duplicate stitch over versus go back in the intarsia. And I have a few final comments to make on this project. Final, I guess, specs or measurements are the overall weight of this cardigan is 770 grams. That's the amount of yarn that I used. And about 88 of those grams are just for the contrast. These used significantly less, also this welt, than I expected. I could have gotten away with half the amount of pink yarn that I bought. The final circumference at the widest part after the bust is 48 inches around, which is bigger than I meant. And part of that is my gauge changed in the final garment. I'm wondering if it's because of the weight of the whole thing versus my swatch. My swatch had my stitch gauge at 20.5 stitches in 4 inches, and this garment is 20. I really lost that half a stitch, which I think added about an inch or two. And if I were to make it, like if this is a pattern and I was choosing a size, I would have gone for the size down from this one because of that difference in gauge. And also my bust size has shrank about 1.5 or 2 inches since when I did the measurements for this cardigan, so I am basically about almost a full size down. And so while it's a little big, I am so in love with it. I've been wearing it when it's warm enough as like a jacket almost out and about here because it feels very springy. I've been wearing it with a white t-shirt and jeans or a blue t-shirt and white pants, and I'm looking forward to wearing it with my collection of white sundresses as we get into the warmer part of spring. It's warm, it is not soft, it's not irritating on my skin. And this was just such a emotionally and mentally satisfying project for me. And now I have this craving to keep drafting my own patterns whenever there's a garment that I want to make and I can't find a pattern for it. And I really want to encourage any of you to as well. It's not as bad as you may think. Just knit a gauge swatch, think about what you want, look at some patterns that you've loved the fit of before and the construction methods that they use, and don't be afraid to frog or spend some time thinking it through. Another thing is this actually only has 6 buttons. I could not fit my needle through the shank of the final button that I was going to put up here. So there is one buttonhole that doesn't have a button, and I'm trying to bring myself to care about that more, but in this moment I don't. The way that the current top button, which is the second last buttonhole, sits is right in the middle of my chest, which I really like the look of. I planned to have it here, which I also like the look of, but it doesn't bother me to have it here. I feel like I got really lucky with this project. It for the most part worked out the way I wanted. I'm gonna do some thinking about how to recalibrate it to work one size down in case I wanted to make this again instead of a 48-inch bust, which is giving me about 13 inches of positive ease, to have it closer to 10 or 11 inches of positive ease, because I don't know, I made this and I love it, and while these colors are kind of bright, I feel like this could be really fun to do in neutrals or with a more neutral base and like a green, or because now I know that these diamonds require so little yarn, I feel like in the future it might be a good use of my hand spun, or to do like a vest version. I don't know, I might just be in that post-project high of like, I want 15 more of them. And this project took me over 6 months, and that's mostly because I put it down for about 3 months in the middle, so realistically I'm probably not going to get around to another one anytime soon, but for the most part I would say this was a rousing success. I am so happy with it, and my friends are going to have to put up with seeing me wear it over and over and over again in the coming weeks and years. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you enjoyed this kind of long-term project vlog from me. I normally do more sit-down, chatty, talking head podcast videos or thinking through thought process or inspiration videos, but this was a fun creative challenge for me when it comes to filming a video and editing. Thank you so much for sticking around along the way. I'll now show you what this looks like standing up in all its glory.